Good evening. Is the mood set? Welcome to my Nosferatu. Oh, that sounds kind of cringe. Little long time no see. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. I had a great holiday season. I'm so happy it's over. Best part about my holidays was the day after Christmas, I went and saw Nosferatu. Nosferatu. The Midwest in me keeps wanting to put an R in there. Nosferatu, bro. I saw the movie the day after Christmas, and then I came straight home and wrote my review. But for the past week, I've kind of sat on the review because I've seen a lot of opinions forming. Oh, opinions! And of course, I'm going to give my own because I know so many people care about my opinion. This review is going to have some spoilers. I'm sorry. There are some spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go see it, come back, watch, whatever. I tried to tiptoe around spoilers, but I just can't. I have to talk about specifically all the amazing and not so amazing parts of this movie. Almost a decade ago, the wheels of fate were set in motion. Robert Eggers was chosen to direct the remake of Nosferatu in 2015, which seemed like a barbaric dream come true for the young director, as Nosferatu was the film that sent him down the path of filmmaking way back during his childhood. Robert Eggers thought it was too good to be true. Still, he got to work getting early details together that would eventually fall through, as Nosferatu was put on the production shelf for a bit. But during this small break, Eggers would pop out the masterpieces that are The Witch and The Lighthouse. Finally, in 2022, Eggers was ready to take Nosferatu off the shelf and get to work. And here I am, 2 years later. So happy. Gothic horror is back. Victorian Gothic horror is back. Also, I'm from the Midwest, as I've already said. So when I say horror, horror, H-O-R-R-O-R, horror. This movie is scary in all the right ways. And I don't mean jump scary, like, but within the first 5 seconds, my heart was beating really fast. Like, the movie starts off strong. It checked every box that I have for horror movies. Psychological horror, physical horror, disgusting horror, paranormal romance horror, animal horror, and most importantly, monster horror. This is a monster movie. This is a movie about a monster, and I love it. I think recently the world has really fallen into, like, humans are the monsters in a lot of media. Monster horror has really been pushed to the side, and now it's like humans that are the bad guys in a lot of horror movies. But this was a pleasant change of scenery. It was so fun to sit back and watch a horror film that left the main characters helpless. This was some OG scary movie magic. The power of Count Orlok was insane. No one could do anything except suffer, and that is the core of the horror genre. There are so many amazing examples of horror movies where the main characters just have to ride the ride of death, and that's exactly what happens in this movie. I must give the disclaimer, I have never seen the original Nosferatu from 1922. I don't think this invalidates my review. If anything, I think it's better that I went into the story blind. The original movie company actually got in trouble. They were sued by Bram Stoker's widow for using too much inspiration from her husband's hit 1897 novel, Dracula. It's crazy how works of fiction have molded our society. Dracula set the stage for so many things, including Nosferatu. However, when the film's production company was sued, they went bankrupt. And in Europe, almost every copy of the film was destroyed. However, a good chunk of copies hopped on boats and made it to the US, and the film survived complete destruction. Fast forward to right now, and I've just got to say, thank fucking God. Holy shit. Not only is Gothic horror back, but going to the gosh dang movie theater is back. I could not imagine watching any of the movies I've seen in the past 3 months anywhere but the movie theater. I was genuinely nervous there for a second that COVID had killed going to the movie theater. And there is something so special about witnessing emotion and death and life and stories and everything in between at the movie theater. I haven't consumed that much horror content. Between the big horror games I've played and the A24 movies that I admire, I'm not much of an old-time horror movie girl. It's just not my genre. But Nosferatu may have genuinely changed that. It felt like an experience. It felt like everything I hoped it would be and a bit more. The story itself is very easy to follow and understandable, but maybe I'm a little too fan fiction brained to give a clear grading on that. Essentially, there's so much male yearning in this movie. Men yearning is so back. Men, it's time to yearn. Yearn, yearn, yearn. Get on your knees and grace my feet. If you break it down, this story is about a girl and her crazy roster of 2 guys. This woman was pulling from Germany to Transylvania. Coochie so good, it astrally projects to please her monster of a side piece. There may have been a few moments, especially in the first act of the movie, where some small story bits didn't make a lot of sense, but this film radiates gothic, grotesque whimsy. Big word for 2025, whimsy. So I just didn't really care much about the logic behind some of the characters' decision making. I never really expected a winner to come out of this story. It was kind of just losing, lost. I do think the weakness of this movie is the pacing. Although it didn't bother me that much, I personally really enjoyed how quickly things were moving. Just because I enjoyed how quickly things were moving because I wanted to get to nighttime faster. Every time a daytime scene was happening, speed it along. Okay, I want to see him get to night. I don't get to see him unless it's nighttime. Can we get to nighttime? Days didn't matter. However, a big part of the beginning of the film is a journey from Germany to Transylvania and back. That's supposed to take 6 weeks, but this 6-week timeline is pretty ignored within the movie. And there are only a few lines that hint at the fact that time has passed. A lot of the second act of this movie feels a little too fast, but I also just cared about seeing what mattered. It's just one of those movies where you have to assume every minute you didn't see just didn't contribute to the main story at all, so it doesn't matter. A shining star of this movie is the cinematography. Director of cinematography, Jaron Blotchke, worked his magic again with Robert Eggers. He was also the director of cinematography on The Lighthouse. I think I can confidently say that Jaron's area of expertise lies within his ability to make the dark almost visible. The night scenes in this movie stole the show. Nighttime not only felt like an ode to the original black and white film, but it also just felt scary. If you're like me and once upon a time you were also scared of the dark, this movie will make you feel some of those similar feelings again. I think it's very telling when a movie can have so many scenes of just shadows and silhouettes and yet still tell so much. The anticipation of finally seeing all of Count Orlok is amplified with scenes of just his giant looming figure in his dusty, dirty, gross castle. I can only see his shadow, but what a man. Oh, he's like 8 feet tall. Bill Skarsgard, 8. Literally. What a weird dude. Man, if clowns and vampires were within my repertoire, I would feel unstoppable. I would feel like I have the biggest dingling ever. Definitely not the most normal and not crazy or monster-like whatsoever dingling. I would have a big dingling. But truly, I can't think of anyone else that could have given a better performance. I couldn't even tell it was Bill Skarsgård. That could have been an actual, real, disgusting, rotting, grotesque vampire. And I wouldn't have been able to tell that it was actually a human in makeup. And apparently a cheetah print, leopard print. I saw a picture of his costume like in real lighting. You never really see his costume in the movie, but it's like leopard print. Hell yeah. Hell, he was dripped out. Couldn't even see it. I knew he was from his aura, but he was dripped out. Bill Skarsgård is tall and the definition of menacing. He looms and lurks and pines and yearns, and it is so hot. He gives Count Orlok a sense of restlessness that I loved seeing in the monster. An impatient desire that is probably resonating well with the Edward girlies in chat. Edward Cullen Nation. How are we feeling? Now, I do want to say a lot of the opinions I've seen around this movie have to do with people romanticizing it too much or people saying Count Orlok is hot. When I say that, right, I'm just being funny. I know it's really hard for a lot of dusty corners of the internet to like take jokes these days, but I wouldn't actually lie with Count Orlok. I understand that he represents trauma, he represents shame and everything dark and sad and depressing within Ellen, but let me hit a joke. Let me just be funny. This happens with so many other disgusting characters where people are like, oh my god, disgusting, rotting, horrible man that's bad for me. Give him to me now. I want him. It's just a joke. And so before you go down and type that paragraph, let me just say, it's not that deep. It's not that deep, shoddy. And I'm sorry that you resonated with Ellen a lot and you resonated with the fact that Count Orlok is a bad guy and you don't like seeing comments of people wanting to bounce on it like it's rotting and gross and gonna suck the blood out of your heart. But I don't know. This is my it's not that deep moment. It's not that deep. Bill Skarsgård also, like I just said, made Count Orlok gross. His breathing, his groaning, the way he did what vampires do was disgusting. Horrifically so. Bill Skarsgård's performance was 10 out of 10. And I cannot think of anything I would change. By the way, my window will be open at night from here until forever. Pook, if you want to come be a shadow on my curtains, you come be a shadow on my curtains. Mwah. As for our other main characters, Lily Rose Depp just did an insane generational run of a performance. There were a few other names thrown around for the role of Ellen Hutter, including Jenna Ortega and Anna Taylor-Joy, but I truly don't think anyone in Hollywood would have been able to contort their body and face the way she did. I felt so much sympathy for Ellen throughout this film, but I also rooted for her when she lacked good judgment. From beginning to end, that was my girl. I got it. I was with her in her pursuit of whatever she wanted when she wanted it. The role of Thomas Hutter was originally going to be played by Harry Styles. I'm not a Harry Styles fan, and I'm very happy that that just didn't work out. Instead, we got the gem that is Nicholas Hoult. I fell in love with this man way back in my middle school years when Warm Bodies came out. I think Hoult brings a lot of humanity to this movie. It feels like everyone else is wrapped up in something bigger, but he is much more cut and dry and simple. He wants the job to get the money to buy the house to be with his wife. Unfortunately, I wasn't rooting for this character as much, although I didn't want anything to happen to him either. He was like the natural good. The lawful good as well. Thomas Hutter is a very resilient part of this movie. He keeps going even in the darkest moments because he loves his wife. Unfortunately, so does somebody else. Get in line, buddy. Other big names in this movie include my beloved Aaron Taylor-Johnson. And Emma Corrin. I thought this casting was great as well. Aaron Taylor-Johnson has a fantastic presence for period pieces. He fits the combative voice of reason role very well. Emma Corrin played the role of Anna Harding, a loving mother to two girls and friend Ellen Hutter. I can't say too much without spoiling all of it, but in the last bit of the movie, every time I saw Aaron Taylor-Johnson, all I could think was, my Shayla, no, my Shayla, take all this pain away. Also, Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe surrounded by 500 live rats. As always, Willem Dafoe brought the last piece of the puzzle to this movie. He is the cherry on top of this gothic, gross-ass cake. He is the mad scientist that everyone calls crazy until they need him. This was the perfect role for Mr. Dafoe. However, I also could have seen the likes of Christoph Waltz killing this role as well, but I'm glad it was Willem Dafoe. I enjoyed the tenderness that Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz showed to Ellen Hutter. It's almost as if from the moment they met, he knew what was going to happen. I will need to rewatch this movie just to focus on this character. And if you haven't seen it yet, focus on Willem Dafoe's character. Because I smell something. I don't know. I smell fish in the air. or rats. Something else that I personally really loved about this movie was the costuming and the physical effects. There was not a whole lot of green screen that I could tell. The sets were built, the sets were real. It was very nice to see. The outfitting was peak, and all of the clothing caught my eye. Like, there were moments where I was just looking at a dress or a suit more than I was looking at the main character's face. Although the not so clothed character was also. It is so nice to see a gothic horror romance that doesn't shy away from the fact that this is a monster, a disgusting demon that has been rotting away for 100, maybe 200 years. He's not going to be jumping and jiving like Drac from Hotel Transylvania. The visuals of these characters were delectable and yet hard to swallow at some moments. I would give character design a 9 out of 10 because there was just one thing about Count Orlok I didn't like as much, but over this past week I've learned that it is a very historically accurate part of his costume. You'll know when you see it. Just know it's meant to be there, and now that you know that it's historically accurate, fire. Love it. I think it was the right decision, and it sets Orlok apart from other iterations of him and other monsters within the monster horror genre. Rounding out my review, if you like movies like Midsommar and Evil Dead, you'll like Nosferatu. My horror movie range is limited to pretty much Midsommar and Evil Dead. But I found this film fulfilling. I enjoyed the discomfort. I felt uncomfortable the whole time I was watching this movie. In such a good way. Uncomfortable, and yet time was moving so fast. And I enjoyed that. There was no lull. There was no slow parts of the movie. They all blended together well. And the pacing may have been off at some moments, but I just don't think pacing could ruin any real aspect of this movie. I think it's a very difficult thing to do to make an audience comfortably uncomfortable for 2 hours. Mix that in with some spicier feelings, and you have what I would call a damn near perfect gothic horror movie. The cast is amazing. The story lacks hope and love so beautifully. And our main monster man makes me question my moral compass in the strangest ways. It's fun to watch movies where there's no clear winner. This was just a wild ride of losing and demonic obsession really coming out on top. It felt like an experience at the movie theater that will stick with me for a while because of the range of emotions it incited in me. I wrote this review last week, and even last week I was like, I gotta think about this movie a little more before I, piece my thoughts together and then share with whoever gives a fuck. Nosferatu is dethroning The Lighthouse, and I am ranking it as my second favorite horror film behind Midsommar. The only other horror movie I watched in theaters this year was Alien Romulus, which was also amazing. Also featured a grotesque monster, but Nosferatu takes the cake for me. I'm always open to discussion, and I love learning what other people think, or maybe things that you may have picked up on in the movie that I missed. Let me know. Also, don't forget to subscribe and join my Discord server. Love my Discord server. Great place. Going on 5 years this year, I think, my server. I don't know. Anyways, we have weekly movie nights and a channel we love to talk about movies in, so if you're a big movie person, you should hop in there. Let us know what you think. And don't forget to use code J at GamerSupps checkout. That's a great way to support me and my endeavors. Use code J, get 10% off. JAE, GamerSupps.com. That's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And let me know what you thought of the movie. Good old Nosferatu. Nosferatu. May I hit your pen? That's it for me. Bye!